Coming up on this edition of Cogeco News, the price tag going up for the twin pad. Some big changes to curriculum in Ontario. We get a reaction. And hockey players doing the best they can to stay fit. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this Wednesday edition of Cogeco News. I'm Greg ESTABROOKS. Well, City Council is pressing on despite COVID-19 as they had a special meeting on Tuesday. And pandemic or no pandemic, they are pressing on with plans for a big construction project, the twin pad. So the estimated construction cost of said twin pad, the multi-use facility for the city, is now in the $32 to $34 million range. Our Clark Heipel is at the site of the new build and has more.
Yes, Greg, I'm down here at the Steve O'Michel Sports Complex where Booth Road meets up with Lakeshore. The original architectural drawings for the new community center down here at the O, the square footage was pegged at 100,000. After discussions and in an attempt to reduce the budget pressure, that square footage was brought down to 75,000. But subsequent discussions with user groups has brought the square footage up to closer to 90,000 square feet. Now, with the increase in square footage, just like any other build, no matter the size, an increase in cost. And to give you an idea of where this double pad will go, you can see Lakeshore Drive behind me as we circle around here. I'm multitasking with an umbrella and a microphone. The build will be constructed in a portion of the parking lot stretching into the forested area behind me. Chair of Community Services Johanne Brousseau is overseeing the project. With the increase in footprint comes the increase in cost. Tell us the budget pressure that this will place.
The increase in cost, originally we started at around 30 million, but that was an arbitrary start number. We were now at between 32 to 34 point something today. When we get the A costing, which will be sometime in October, which will be more realistic number at that time, that will be more the number we'll gear from. But right now, in January, staff applied for funding for the project, hoping that in September we will hear news on that. Because of COVID, we'll expect maybe a few more months before we hear back. Once we have all the information, then staff and council will have a clearer direction on where we're heading and how we're funding it.
Is there a concern that the cost could go up even more in time?
There is. Oh yeah, there is definitely a concern of going up. If council decides to pause it for a while, we were informed on the first architectural presentation that inflation costs for construction material ranges between 5 to 10% yearly. So as long as we know the risks that we are taking and willing to accept those risks.
And lastly, as the budget sits now, and with the funding that you mentioned and how it's allocated, what kind of pressure does this place on the taxpayer? Will people be able to see a noticeable increase in their tax bill?
I believe we've already made that adjustment. That we about a year, the 2019 budget was adjusted so that we would be able to pay this debenture, like this mortgage, pay this mortgage off.
Chair Brousseau wants shovels in the ground as early as late this year, if not early next year, with a ribbon cutting planned 18 months after that. Reporting for Cogeco News, I'm Clark Heipel.
Speaking of changes, 3 different models of education delivery are being proposed for the coming school year in the fall, we believe. We hear Near North District School Board's reaction with Chair Jay Aspin.
We've been asked as a board, as one of the 72 in the province, to come up with our own option, based on our needs. And we've been given to August the 4th to do that. Any school reopening plans will, of course, have to be approved by our local health authority, and so we have that consideration as well. So we hope to be preparing something for board consideration and getting it to the ministry by August 4th so we can move forward with our own plan in September.
No matter what the education model looks like, is it the first Tuesday after Labor Day when school will begin?
Yes, I think that's the date. It's usually the date, and that's the date this year as well. First week in September, virtually.
Now, yesterday, the Ontario government released revisions to elementary math, coding education. What's your view on the changes to the mathematics in the elementary schools?
I know it will be difficult for boards to implement this in addition to COVID, but I think the boards are up for the challenge, and I think it's well needed, and we've got to get this into our schools as quickly as possible. Students need strong, functional subjects that will guide them and assist them through life, and this is part of the process.
What challenges will near north schools, both elementary and high schools, what challenges will staff of those schools face when school returns, no matter what it looks like?
Well, the basic challenge of change, it's going to be very much different. It won't be normal. It will be very different. Health considerations and the safety of our staff and students are number one. So everything has to be considered along those lines. So procedures will be different. Fiscal allotments of the school will be obviously different. It'll be a whole different world, and people will have to get used to that.
Speaking of schools, Woodfield Secondary School sadly going out with a whimper, really, and not a bang. The school's last graduation ceremony will be a COVID-19 influenced drive-by pick up your diploma on Thursday. All the schools doing that. The pandemic closed all schools early in 2020, and that meant the big farewell party that was slated for Woodfield in May, the long weekend, was canceled. However, it could happen next year in some fashion.
Well, we're having what we've seen a lot around the province, and will be happening around the North Bay community as well. We're doing a drive-by graduation. So students, along with family members, will be driving up in their cars. There'll be a variety of teachers rotating throughout the day. We've all been kind of given assigned blocks to be here so we can see some of the graduates drive by as well. So they'll check in at the bottom, sign in with the teacher, get their rules and regulations, drive up following the health COVID protocol, and then we'll meet them at the front doors, provide them with their graduation certificate, no touch policy of course, and then they'll have the option to take pictures as well out front of the school.
Again, that's Thursday. On Tuesday, kids are picking up their belongings at the front door. Woodfield was supposed to have a big alumni send-off on the long weekend in May. Obviously canceled. They may try to do it, though, in the future, but it makes a sad ending even sadder.
But at the same time, we have always tried to keep the positive to it as well, Greg. As you know, this school has been built on a foundation of, deal with the struggle, move on, survive, work hard, and celebrate. And so we intend to do the same thing. Out of this situation, we intend to have a celebration next year. We will have an alumni event. It may not be able to happen at this school, but it'll happen in North Bay, and we'll be able to celebrate all the things that make Woodfield so wonderful for all of these years. And I think part of what's been making this transition over this time easier is having an incredible leader at our helm in Ali Hurst. And so I think that that's made a huge difference. And then also the fact that we have so many teachers here that are former students. So we're not only talking about our memories, there's probably about 20 teachers here that are actually former students. And we're talking about our memories from high school being students here. So we're sharing those stories when we see each other through Zoom conferences. And then when we're here packing up, we're just taking our time, allowing ourselves to put Woodfield Secondary School to rest.
Still tough to hear that. Some good news, though, for families of patients at the North Bay Regional Health Center. That's coming on Thursday. And firstly, the police responded to a one-vehicle MVC, motor vehicle collision of sorts, off the road on Booth Road. City Police and the City Police identification vehicle responded to Booth Road at about 3 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon for this. A single vehicle ended up on the opposite side of Booth Road at the edge of the wooded area. A police spokesperson told me that there are no serious injuries in this situation. We'll try to get you more when we get more. On another front, an important update from the North Bay Regional Health Center on this day, as some restrictions have been loosened. They are welcoming back some essential visitors, dubbed as care partners, back to the health center beginning Thursday. This would be family and loved ones of patients, and they are an important part, the hospital says, of their community. COVID numbers, really no changes, and 260 tests were processed on Tuesday, and still 30 cases out of 11,552 tests. We're going to go wild on Wednesday with a lizard update right after this. Welcome back, everybody. It is the last Wednesday of this month, 1 week to Canada Day, and that sets the table for Wild Wednesday. Once again, we find Clark down the highway 17 that is, visiting the Reptile Adventure Camp with Steve Featherstone.
All of our animals are rescues, so this was somebody's pet prior to coming to us. And veiled chameleons are more of a set up and look at animal. They're not really animals that you would interact with and handle on a regular basis. They are famous for changing colors. So this guy, when he's comfortable, will be like a really bright lime green. And when he's a little bit nervous, will be a little bit darker, kind of like he is now. And if he's super upset and really mad, he'll be like a dark brown. A lot of people think that you can, put them up against plaid and they'll turn plaid, and put them up against polka dots and they'll turn polka dots. That's not true. It's more about behaviors and attitudes. It's more about their comfort level. Really bright colors are happy, and really dark colors are a little bit stressed out.
Now his hands and feet are pretty unique, not webbed, but they seem to be attached.
Yeah, he's got kind of 2 feet that kind of face one direction and 2 feet that face the other, and that helps him kind of climb up trees and vines and help him manipulate things so that he can pick stuff up and travel around a little bit. These guys will kind of walk like kind of back and forth a little bit to kind of look a little bit like a leaf blowing in the wind. And they have those 2 eyes as well that kind of work independently, so you can see kind of different directions. And that's a good indication that this animal is more of a prey species than predator. He needs a good vision to kind of keep an eye on everything to try and keep himself safe.
Where would you find this creature in the wild?
These guys are from Africa. There's a lot of different species of chameleons. Some of the smallest ones on our planet are like the size of a dime, really, really small guys. And there's some really big species, but they're pretty much all from Madagascar and Africa.
Now, what would they eat? Insects?
Mostly all insects, yeah. He's got this really long tongue that will come out, so if he's eating in captivity, we give him mealworms and crickets and waxworms and stuff like that. His tongue would come out and grab it and pull it back into his mouth. In the wild, this guy, we kind of anything that's smaller than him, bug-wise, that's kind of moving around on the trees. So he would blend in with the branches and plants and stuff like that on the trees and bushes. And as an insect got too close, he'll lunge out with his tongue and grab it.
Now, you don't necessarily bring this guy to shows. How come?
Just the stress level for him. So we have a lot of different animals at our facility, and we really only use animals for the shows and presentations that handle well, that are fairly used to it, that aren't going to upset him. You can tell this guy's not super comfortable, so there's no reason to really put him through that stress level. Kids would love this animal. They would learn a lot from him. They would really like him and appreciate him, but it's just not fair to him as a living individual, right? So he just hangs out in his aquarium most of the time, and or terrarium, I should say, and takes advantage of retirement.
From a veiled chameleon to a tiger rat snake.
These guys we don't use a lot for birthday parties. Just they're super high strung, and they're an arboreal species. So these guys climb. They spend a lot of time off of the ground and spend a lot of time moving around a little bit. But they're from Central America. We've found these guys in Costa Rica a couple times, but you never get close to them. They're just so fast. These guys climb trees from the ground in an instant. And they also call them a chicken snake in Costa Rica, because these guys will go in and raid chicken coops and eat eggs and eat all the young chicks as well. And they eat very fast for a snake, and they eat a lot for a snake. So these guys are kind of non-stop action. We use them for summer camp programs a fair bit, once we can get outside and get some extra room, so we're not kind of cooped up in a small space with these guys with a bunch of kids.
And with the aggression, it's more of a defense mechanism?
Yeah, I don't really think these guys are super aggressive. They will take some shots at us every once in a while, and they'll take some strikes, but I think it's more that they're a little bit nervous and they kind of, don't have a spot to go, so at that point they'll take the odd shot at you. But they generally miss. It's fairly fast, but you can see it coming. You can kind of get out of the way. If we gave him the opportunity to go back into his terrarium and hide, he'll take that every single time. He doesn't want a whole lot to do with us. But we do use him for programs once in a while, just because he's so different from all the other species that we have. You can see right now he's getting a little bit upset, and he's kind of like puffing his neck up almost like a cobra would, but he goes the opposite. He goes kind of high, like tall, as opposed to widening out like a cobra, just to make his head look a little bit more bigger and make him look more like a formidable predator, right?
And with the tongue, is that a smell feature as well?
Yeah, snakes and lizards both smell with their tongue. You can tell a lot from the tongue too. If it's coming out really fast and going back in, he's just kind of checking everything out. If he gets a little bit more upset and inquisitive, he'll kind of arch back in that position like he's ready to strike, and sometimes his tongue will come out and just stay out and go up and down a little bit. He's lining up his prey at that point. He's very...
I like that shot. That was a very cool shot there at the end. Breakdown has arrived here in Cogeco News. Mr. Heupel has, I think he has some street talk and some weather talk right after this.
Weather is brought to you by Canadore College. Great things happen here.
This is Streets You Didn't Know Existed, episode 12. Welcome back to Cogeco News. I'm Clark Heupel here. I'll tell you where here is in just a moment. I am here for your 5-day weather forecast brought to you by Canada College, and you don't need me to tell you it has been a rainy Wednesday. All right, back to Streets You Didn't Know Existed, episode 12. I am in West Ferris, and this street is off of Lakeshore Drive. If you have a car or you ride in a car, you likely have been by it 100 to 1,000 times. If you're from North Bay, you've been by it a lot, and perhaps you don't even know it exists. It is off of Lakeshore Drive near the Steve Omershell Sports Complex, near the Nipissing Inn. On this obscure street, there are 2 houses with driveways that lead to them, and then there is a community area with 10 residential units. That is all for this street. Now, in my live Facebook video earlier in the day, I had a little bit of a miscue. I named the street by accident, quickly deleted that one and did another one. So if you're one of the fortunate people to have been tuned in to that live video, you already know the name of this street. It is a popular ingredient in a soup, and it rhymes with a really good name for a dog. This street, Barley. Barley Street off of Lakeshore Drive in West Ferris, adjacent to the Nipissing Inn. Let's take a look at that 5-day forecast to see when the rain will stop. Venturing overnight on this Wednesday night, a low of 12, and the rain will continue to midnight. On Thursday, the 25th of June, the rain will continue until the afternoon, and then the sun will poke through the clouds. We're going to have a high of 22, and the UV index will be a factor, a low of 13 on Thursday night. On Friday, it's shaping up to be a beauty, high 25, low 17, sun and only sun in the sky. Unfortunately, for the weekend, the rain moves back in on Saturday, high 25, low 16, but the sky is clear on Saturday night into Sunday, the 28th of June, the last Sunday of June. High 27, low 17, with sun on Sunday. Turning the page back to the almanac, we can tell you that Tuesday featured a high of 23 and a low of 16, pretty close to the normals of 24 and 12. That does it for the weather forecast and episode 12 of Streets You Didn't Know Existed. Let's send it to a quick break, and Greg Estabrooks will have your sportscast right after this very short break.
Sports is brought to you by Tag Construction for all your construction needs.
Welcome back, everybody. Hockey players trying hard during these trying times, this trying summer. Hockey rinks closed, so skating is out. Many are training at home. Some are doing dry land work, and that's where we were on Tuesday. These young hockey players putting their, wait for it, best foot forward, doing some outdoor training because, well, they can't skate. They got to stay in shape one way or another. Logan Baker is running these drills, and he's a disciple of the Yoda of local trainers, Larry Shepard, and he's very happy to acknowledge the efforts that Mr. Shepard made on him as an athlete, now he as a trainer.
I think like obviously I took the Canada program with Larry, and then I went on to LIT and did my university degree there. So I think like the foundation of everything that I know and that I'm working off of came from Larry, and then I've been building on that and kind of, you know, making making some of the stuff that I do my own as well. But he definitely is like a massive influence in how I've gotten to kind of the spot I am today coaching, for sure.
Now, Baker admits he is no hockey guy, but he is an expert trainer and a longtime power and Olympic lifter. He trained under Shepard in those disciplines, but also how to train people in different ways to make them better at whatever sport they're trying to excel at.
We were looking at like the demands of the sport, so like what kind of positions that the athletes are spending lots of time in, what muscle groups are being used, what type of injury risks are prevalent in the sports that they're working on. Also, a really important factor is looking at their training age. So, there's a big difference what you can do with someone who's been only actually like doing strength and conditioning for, say a few weeks versus, 5 or 6 years. That makes a huge impact on what they're able to do within the program in terms of volume and intensity, but also in terms of just the exercises they're able to execute properly and effectively. So it really makes a huge impact there as well.
And since these kids can't get on the ice right now to improve in that manner, working off ice is making the best of a difficult situation.
It's a tough not getting on the ice. It's been a while, and these programs have helped us stay in shape and get ready for the upcoming season.
A lot of running, especially since the corona, you've been sitting around, but it's good.
And what's Logan like to work with?
It's fun. He's pushes you, but not too hard. He's it's not too serious, but serious enough to get something done.
As far as all the different speed and agility drills we're doing, we're looking for different qualities in each of the drills, right? So one of them, if they're doing more lateral movement, so they're going to be moving side to side, versus sometimes we're working on deceleration mechanics, so they're going to be running to a stop and then decelerating and then changing direction. So there's all these different qualities that you're looking for. The same way if you're watching them skate, right? They're going to be skating one way, the puck's going to change positions, they're going to have to stop and get going again. So that quality is something that would change. And then other times it'll be, they're going to be rounding corners, so just the same thing, going around the net, or if you're getting into position for a pass or something like that, you're going to be changing directions in that sense. So we're going to be running corners.
We're out of time on this Wednesday bingo tonight. We'll see you with more Cogeco News live at 5 on Thursday.